Chapter 1. The Invisible Oldest Daughter. When the police showed up at my apartment, I thought they were looking for someone else. But when I saw my father's eyes cold, certain accusing, and my mother hiding behind him, I realized they weren't there for a mistake. They were there for me. My own family had reported me for theft. The same family whose bills I paid, whose lives I held together for years. My name is Lauren Pierce, and before that night, I was the invisible oldest daughter who kept the house running, while they quietly plotted to ruin me. The office hums differently after 7 in the evening vents, sighing and fluorescent tubes whispering over the cubicle rows, the kind of quiet that makes your own breath sound like a metronome. I sit at my desk in Springfield, Missouri, eyes gritty from staring at a spreadsheet where 3 numbers refuse to line up. Beckett and Sloan Accounting wants a clean variance report for a regional client by morning, and I have already rebalanced 2 accounts that Kyle and Sales promised were reconciled. Mr. Beckett strolls past at the exact moment the totals finally match, pauses behind my chair, and says, "That was fast, good catch, Kyle." I feel my shoulders lift, and then settle back down as I click save. It isn't new, it isn't even personal, it's weather. I log the change and send the file, then gather my pens the way a nurse might wrap gauze, precise and automatic. The calendar square for Saturday is circled with a pink gel pen I bought on sale 17th birthday party written in small, neat letters. I've watched that circle for 3 months while I juggled vendor calls at lunch and order confirmations on my bus ride home. This afternoon, I paid the deposit for the band from a coffee shop after reconciling receipts for a construction firm that spends more on lunches than I do on rent. I close the laptop and the office is suddenly louder with the sound of other people leaving. Kyle claps me on the back and says we make a good team. He smells like aftershave and confidence. I tell him I'll lock up the copy room. The June air hits like a warm hand as I step out. The sun hangs low over the parking lot, and the maples across the street wear a late spring green that looks almost too saturated to be real. I stop at the ATM near the grocery store. I transfer a payment to the utility account my parents added me to last year, then a smaller payment for my sister's school fees. The screen thanks me for my business. I thank it back under my breath. My phone buzzes with a reminder about napkins. My mother had called earlier to say Piper doesn't like purple, make sure you get pink. She didn't ask how my day was. That's not her fault. I never taught her how to ask. Piper sends a message that reads, "Do whatever," and a party hat emoji. I imagine her on the couch with one knee tucked under hair and a careless ponytail, scrolling through photo filters while a reality show murmurs from the television. She's 17 tomorrow. I turned 27 in March and celebrated by eating cake from the bakery counter at my kitchen table, while I drafted a playlist she would pretend to hate and then secretly enjoy. The older you get, the thinner your celebrations become, until they're translucent and you can see your own workday through them. At home, my apartment smells faintly of lemon cleaner because I scrubbed the counters before work, a ritual I do when I feel like I'm losing my grip on something unnamed. The checklist on the refrigerator door is crowded with boxes and arrows. Restaurant deposit paid in April. Decorations pickup scheduled. Custom cupcakes due by 3. Band confirmed 2 sets and a short break. I don't write the cost totals anymore because the math sits behind my eyes even when I close them. The groceries I cut last week, the skirt I didn't buy, the morning coffee made at home instead of the place on Elm with the cinnamon rolls as big as a child's head. I take the party supplies out of the hallway closet to make sure the table runners haven't wrinkled, then put everything back and open the bottom drawer of the buffet where I keep old photo albums and loose envelopes of pictures. Beneath a stack of Christmas cards is a flattened sketchbook with a broken coil. Inside are studies of hands and faces, charcoal that smudges the edges of my thumbs, and a letter from a College of Art and Design dated 1993 addressed to my mother, Diane Caldwell, at the apartment she shared with my father when they were new. The acceptance lines are crisp, the scholarship amount printed in firm numbers. The bottom corner is torn diagonally and taped back on. My mother kept this and then chose not to go. "Dreams don't pay electric bills," she said once while I stood in our kitchen as a teenager asking to join a summer photography program. It was a statement about gravity, not a rebuke. The restaurant sits near the courthouse downtown, a brick building with string lights wound through the beams of the private room, and a view of a mural someone painted in blues and golds last year. I arrive early the way I always do. I tape place cards by hand, align the cutlery a thumb's width from the plates, and ask the server to make sure the water pitchers stay full, because I've learned that people talk more kindly when their glasses are topped off. The band does a sound check, and the guitarist nods at me with the solidarity of someone who has hauled equipment through too many kitchens. He asks if it's a big party. I tell him it's enough. 6 comes, and then 6:15. The servers stack extra forks and crack jokes near the bar to keep their hands busy. I send a message to Piper that says almost time with a sparkles emoji I've never used before. No response. I call my mother. The ring ends in voicemail. I call my father. He answers, and the first thing I hear is background noise so bright it feels like a light. A boarding announcement in French. Laughter. He says we're in Paris, and I think he means we're in Paris, and we're so surprised you're calling at this exact moment, as if our lives were a sitcom, and the laugh track had cued itself. Then he says we just wanted to keep you busy. He says it the way a person might say, we brought you a souvenir light, and pleased with himself. The floor tilts and then rights itself. I thank him for telling me. I end the call. He texts a picture of the Eiffel Tower lit up like a holiday postcard. My mother sends a heart, and then nothing else. Piper sends nothing. I stand between 2 empty tables with my phone in my fist and look at the place settings I measured yesterday. The napkins are the exact shade of pink my mother requested, and the metallic confetti catches the warm light like tiny coins scattered by a generous stranger. The generosity is mine. I understand that now. The server approaches with careful steps and asks whether we should hold the food. I hear my own voice say, please donate all of it if you can and pack the desserts for the staff. He blinks like he wasn't expecting kindness to come shaped like surrender. He says he'll ask the manager. The guitarist loosens the strap of his instrument and begins to coil his cables. I tell him I'm sorry for the wasted night. He says these things happen. He doesn't ask what kind of family leaves a daughter to host a party for ghosts. That's another kind of kindness. I take out my camera and lift it to my face because that's what I do when the words evaporate. The frame gathers the room into a rectangle where the chairs look expectant and the centerpieces look taller than they are. I press the shutter. The sound is soft and significant. The image appears on the screen. An empty party is still a party, the same way a broken promise is still a promise, just one that forgot where to land. Outside, the sky is lavender with the aftertaste of daylight. I walk around the block once with my hands tucked into my jacket and notice a couple standing outside the florist next door arguing in the tentative way of people who still want to win each other back. The mural's gold paint looks warmer at this hour, and I imagine Piper next to it throwing her head back to laugh. I imagine her being 17 and not knowing the cost of every small joy because her sister has been paying it in advance like a tab that never closes. On the drive home, I pass my parents' street by habit and keep going. Their porch light is on. It has always been on. My phone registers its 31st missed call from my mother. I let it ring. The dashboard clock clicks to 7:59. When you refuse to answer a call, you aren't punishing anyone. You're simply choosing silence over a conversation that would require you to be the one who makes it better. My apartment greets me with a square of light on the kitchen floor where the last of the sunset finds the open blinds. I set the camera down and wash my hands until the water runs cool. I put the cupcakes I picked up earlier on the counter and eat one standing up buttercream sticking sweet at the back of my throat. Sugar doesn't fix anything. Sugar is not for fixing. Sugar is for telling your body that some part of the world can still be soft. I take out the notebook I keep in a drawer and write the sentence that has been trailing me all night. They never saw me because I made their lives too easy. The pen hesitates over the last word and then writes it anyway. I close the notebook and look at the page again as if repetition could make it gentler. It doesn't. I upload the picture of the empty room to a folder I named June because that's what this night is, an early summer night that will not be returned to. I add the invoice scans and the email confirmations to the same folder because order is a religion I know how to practice. The refrigerator hums in the quiet. I line up the napkin packets on the counter even though they are already aligned. I put the extras in a bag for the church pantry I volunteer with twice a month. People appreciate sturdy napkins more than you'd think. When I finally sit on the edge of my bed, the pink gel pen is still in my pocket. I click the cap off and draw a small check mark inside the circle on the calendar. The party is over. The circle is still there. I hold the pen and allow myself to imagine a different circle 3 months from now, a different city, a different kind of work, a room where my name is the one someone says when a long job is done right. The thought is not a plan yet. It is a key warming in my closed hand. I turn off the light and lie down without changing clothes. In the dark, I can hear the upstairs neighbor move a chair. The traffic sigh 2 streets over the building settle. I think about the sketchbook in the drawer and the letter taped back together in patient diagonal lines. My mother was accepted, and then she didn't go. There are 1,000 good reasons to stay. There is also the feeling in my chest right now, quiet and unmistakable, like the first second of a song you know by heart before anyone else recognizes it. I tell myself I will sleep and deal with the rest in the morning. The morning will come whether I am ready or not. I leave the camera on the kitchen table, lens cap off, pointed toward the doorway, as if it might catch something in the night and tell me the truth of it. Chapter 2: The Cycle of Sacrifice. Morning slides in through the blinds and paints the counter where the camera sits, and I wake with that hushed ache that follows a night that refiles the whole cabinet of your life. Coffee helps me move. The apartment smells like beans and lemon cleaner again, and I feel steadier with a mug warming my palm. The photo from last night waits on the memory card like a sealed envelope. I transfer it to a new folder labeled June and build out subfolders the way I do at work when I want chaos to stand down. Receipts, contracts, deposits, confirmation emails. I scan anything that lives only on paper and flatten the pages with the side of my hand so the text will be crisp. The sound the scanner makes is steady and indifferent. I like it. My phone vibrates across the table. Missed calls stack like plates I did not ask for. A message from my mother lands first. Call me when you cool off. Another from Piper arrives a minute later. You are being dramatic. The last message is a photo from my father that I swipe away without opening. My coffee goes tepid. I pour it into the sink and watch it swirl down like a little storm I can actually control. At Beckett and Sloan, the fluorescent lights look harsher, or maybe I am just tired enough to notice. Kyle calls across the bullpen that the client loved our numbers. Mr. Beckett claps him on the shoulder and tells him to lead the call at 9. The server room hums through the wall, and the copier spits paper that smells like warm dust. I sit. I breathe. I open a blank email and type a line that lands with the weight of a decision that has been walking toward me for years. Please accept this as my notice of resignation. The cursor blinks like it is tapping a foot. 2 weeks. I attach a handover list that would make a project manager smile. I add a short thank you that reads like a final inventory, and then I send it before I can start smoothing it into something more palatable. Mr. Beckett stops at my desk a little before lunch. He tucks his hands into his pockets and rocks on his heels. Big move, he says. Going somewhere else in town. I say I am going to take a class and step back for a while. He nods at a spot over my shoulder and says he hopes I land well. Kyle leans on my cube wall and suggests a goodbye happy hour. I tell him I will be packing my apartment most nights. He says he will text me the address anyway. He does not ask why my eyes look like I used sandpaper on them. There is mercy in being unobservant. On my break, I step outside into air that smells like hot pavement and the rain that never arrives. I call Tara. She answers with the sound of rushing water somewhere in the background and tells me she is at the laundromat guarding a machine that eats quarters. I tell her I sent my notice. She laughs the way people do when a door opens in a wall they were sure was structural. She says I am proud of you in a short, clean sentence that cannot be misheard. I tell her about the photography program in Portland that starts in September. She tells me to pull up the site while we are on the phone. We walk through it together. Tuition, 12 payments, or one sum due at enrollment. I say one sum and I write the number in my notebook. 1,500. Flight round trip from Springfield to Portland around 300 if I fly midweek and do not check a bag. I write 300. We do the math out loud like a duet. Party costs already tucked into the past. Rent paid through the end of the month. Groceries cut to basics with a mean little knife. After tuition and flight, I will have about 1,200 left. Tara whistles. She says it is tight, but it breathes if I can pick up hours in a coffee shop. I tell her I can pour milk flowers and count a till in my sleep. She tells me to enroll now before I remember a reason not to. I walk back in and sit at my desk and fill out the enrollment form between a vendor call and a budget variance. When the payment confirmation lands in my inbox, my hands shake a little and then stop shaking. I take a picture of the screen and send it to Tara. She sends back a line of applause. That evening, I sit on the floor with a pile of cardboard boxes and a black marker. I label them with nouns that make a life look simple: books, kitchen, frames. I pull the lease from the file cabinet and read the clause about early termination: 60 days or a fee equal to 1 month. I send a polite email to the property manager and attach the clause. I offer the fee and a list of dates I can make the place available for showing. It is the voice I use when I negotiate at work. My landlord replies quickly with a sure thing and a smiley I would rather not see. I thank him and schedule the inspection. Every small confirmation moves a brick from my chest to the corner by the door where the packed boxes stack like patient friends. My mother calls again just as I am wrapping glassware in old t-shirts. I let it go to voicemail, then I play it. Her voice is careful and a little sharp at the edges. Your father meant well. You overreacted. Call me tomorrow when you are reasonable. A beat of silence and then a softer line that sounds like something she tells herself as much as me. We did not mean to hurt you. I sit on the floor with a bubble wrap roll against my thigh and feel the entire history of our house press close. I think of the acceptance letter I found and the neat way she taped it back together. I think of the way she eats standing up when she is worried, and the way she notices when the towels are folded the wrong direction, and the way she believes love is service. I press the stop button. I take the album I made for Piper out of the drawer and set it on the table. The page with the kindergarten photo makes me smile in a way that aches, because that smile belongs to two girls who did not yet know how complicated the ledger of a family can be. My phone lights up with her name. She sends one line that reads, "You made this about you." I stare at it long enough to feel the heat drain out of my face. I type and delete 3 different replies, and then I turn the phone face down on the table. The next morning, the office moves around me like a familiar machine. I draft the handover notes so thoroughly that I know I will not be called after I leave. Kyle jokes that I am building a monument to my spreadsheets. I laugh because it is easier than explaining that I am writing myself out of a story with clean edges. I slide my badge across my desk and look at it the way you look at a photo of a person you tried very hard to love. At lunch, I take a carton from the break room to an empty park bench and watch a group of kids reorganize a soccer game without an adult. They shout rules and move cones, and the thing works because they all want it to. I do not know what it means, but I write it down on a napkin. Wanting the same thing helps. In the evening, I meet the property manager and we walk through the apartment together. He checks the stove and the blinds and the smoke detector. He compliments the condition of the place. I sign the early termination form and hand him a check for the fee. When he leaves, I breathe like I just came up from under a pool and did not know until that second that I had been under. Tara calls from her car and says she has a friend in Portland who manages a small gallery and sometimes needs help on installation days. She gives me the name and I write Harper Lane in block letters on a sticky note and place it on the refrigerator door between the checklist and the photo of Piper at 10, with a paper crown on her head. Tara says she will text an introduction. She says, "Promise me you will buy a ticket tonight." I promise. After we hang up, I find the midweek flight that costs less and touches down early in the afternoon. I enter my card number and the screen freezes for a breathless second before it flashes confirmed. I forward the itinerary to my own email as if I am the one who needs convincing. I suppose I am. When the apartment is quiet again, I open the folder June and click through the scans. Contracts, deposits. The restaurant confirmation with my name spelled correctly for once, the playlist that I edited a dozen times, the photo of the empty room. I look at that one longer than the rest. It looks like a set waiting for actors. It looks like a lesson. It looks like a door. I take a small note card and write the words I have been thinking since morning. It is time. I stick it to the edge of the refrigerator with a magnet in the shape of a tiny camera. I feel foolish for a second, and then I feel certain. I pack a box of kitchen things and label it kitchen. I pack the lenses and batteries and label the case camera. I put my badge in a drawer and close it gently like I am tucking in a child I no longer have to carry. When night comes, I sit on the floor with my back against the couch and let the silence collect around me. The phone lights again with my mother's name, and I do not move to answer. I let it ring until it stops, and then I let it ring again. The camera case leans against the leg of the table like a dog that understands it will be walked very soon. Chapter 3. The Accusation. The knock starts as a polite tap and trips into fists that rattle the chain on my door. I am still in yesterday's jeans and a soft t-shirt, labels half peeled off boxes when I open it and step back because the hallway is full of my family. My father comes in first, like the house still belongs to him. His jaw looks carved and his tie is tightened the way he does when he wants to be obeyed. My mother hangs at his shoulder with her purse clutched like a small animal. Piper stands behind them with her chin lifted and a jacket tied around her waist like she is late for a movie, and I am in her way. My father does not say hello. He points at my table and says, "You stole from us." I blink because the sentence arrives already concluded, like a verdict delivered to the wrong courtroom. I close the door. I put my palm on the table as if it could steady the room. "What did I steal?" I ask, and my voice is even in a way that makes me feel older inside my bones. "Money," he says. "You moved funds out of the family account. Your mother saw the balance. Where did it go?" My mother's mouth opens and shuts. She looks at the floor. "There is no family account," I say. "There is a utility account with my name on it so I can pay bills when you forget. Everything else is mine." Piper snorts a quick, ugly sound. "You make everything about what you do," she says. "You love acting like a martyr." I look at her and see the 3-year-old who cried until I rocked her to sleep, and the 7-year-old who fell off a bike, and the 15-year-old who borrowed my black dress and snuck it back into my closet with ketchup on the cuff. I also see the girl who left me alone in a restaurant 2 nights ago. My father edges closer, hands on his hips. "I called a friend at the precinct," he says. "He is sending an officer over to straighten this out." "You called the police?" I say. "You left us no choice," he says. "You have been erratic. This party nonsense, money disappearing, we need to make sure you are not out of control. My party nonsense was a birthday for your other daughter," I say, "and the money did not disappear. I used my money to pay for things you asked for and things you forgot. I have records." My mother finally looks at me. I swear her eyes flick to the folder on the table where the camera case leans and back to my face. Her hands are tucked under the strap of her purse tight enough to whiten the knuckles. "Lauren," she says, and then nothing comes. "Sit if you want," I say. No one sits. The room feels like a hallway. The knocks we wait for arrive with a firm rhythm that is not hostile, just like someone who has held a lot of doors open in the worst moments of other people's days. I open the door, and the officer standing there is a woman with a calm face and a bun pulled tight enough to survive a sprint. Her name tag reads Ramirez. "Are you Lauren Pierce?" she asks. "Yes," I say. "Sir," she says to my father without looking at him directly, "you are Mr. Pierce." He nods. He starts to talk and she lifts a hand a fraction, not enough to be rude enough to carve space. "Let me hear from Ms. Pierce first," she says. I gesture at the table. "Everything you will ask for is right there," I say. "Bank statements, receipts, contracts for the restaurant and the band, the tuition payment I made for my own class, transfers I made into the utility account that has my name on it because I keep the lights on when my parents forget." She steps to the table, puts on a pair of glasses from her pocket, and opens the folder. My father moves to look over her shoulder, and she angles the pages away from him a degree. "I will review, and then I will ask questions," she says. Piper edges around to the far side of the couch like she expects a show. My mother finally lowers her purse to the floor and presses her fingertips to her temples. My father starts pacing a short, angry line between the window and the kitchen, the way he does when someone else has the ball. Officer Ramirez moves through the pages with the patience of someone who likes order. She checks the names on the statements, runs a finger under the totals, compares dates, nods at the credit card payoff that shows my own card, not anyone else's. She looks at the contract from the restaurant and the charge on my debit card that matches the deposit. She flips to the printout from the photography program with a highlight across the tuition paid line. She pauses at the screenshot of the utilities payment with my login at the top. She looks up. "Mr. Pierce," she says, "what account do you believe these funds were taken from?" "The family account," he says loud again because he thinks that volume is a kind of credential. "We have had it for 20 years. Is Miss Pierce listed on that account?" she asks. He hesitates. "It is our household account," he says, dodging the exact words as if language were a hallway he could take a left in and find a different room. She turns to me. "Do you have access to that account?" she asks. "No," I say. "I have a login for the utility portal because someone had to set paperless billing and keep track of due dates. I have always paid from my own account. I have never had access to anything of theirs. My mother whispers something that sounds like yes and then swallows it back. Officer Ramirez nods and places the pages in a neat stack. I do not see evidence of theft, she says, talking to the room the way a referee talks to a field. The payments I am looking at appear to be from Ms. Pierce's personal accounts. You called this in as potential fraud. Filing a false report is a citation in this county, and if I were to find evidence of malicious intent, it could be more serious. I am not moving that direction today. I am advising you that calling the police to force a family argument is not an appropriate use of our time. My father steps toward her. I was concerned, he says. She has been behaving unpredictably. We are trying to help. I look at him and hear myself answer in a voice that arrives from somewhere clean and unspectacular. You are not concerned about me, I say. You are concerned about losing control of me. He opens his mouth and closes it. It is almost funny how quiet the room gets. My mother looks at the top page again. It is the restaurant contract. Her finger sets on the line with the deposit amount and stays there like the number could anchor her to the floor. Lauren, she says, and for the first time she sounds like she is speaking to me and not to the part of me she manages. You put this on your card. Yes, I say. Did you ask us for help, she says. No, I say. I asked you to show up. My sister rolls her eyes, but it is smaller than before, like she does not want me to see how the words hit and mark. Officer Ramirez clears her throat gently. I think we are done, she says. Mr. and Mrs. Pierce, I am leaving a report number with your daughter because she is the complainant in practice here. If there is further contact that she feels unsafe about, she can call and reference this number. I am not issuing a citation today. Consider this a warning. If there are any bank accounts in both names that you are concerned about, contact the bank directly. They have procedures for disputes. She hands me a small card and writes the number on the back. Her eyes meet mine, and they are not warm or cold, they are steady. You have your documentation, she says. That matters. Thank you, I say. She walks to the door, and my father beats her there so he can open it like a man who opens doors like a performance he cannot stop giving. She nods and steps out. The hallway swallows the sound of her shoes. The apartment grows larger after she leaves. My father stays in the doorway. We did not raise you to talk to us like this, he says. I pick up the folder and close it. You did not raise me, I say. I raised the version of you that needed me to keep everything running. He glares, then looks past me at my boxes as if they are a betrayal. My mother takes a breath that tries to be enough for the room. Lauren, wait, she says. Can we discuss this without the police? Your father spoke out of turn. We can figure out a plan. There is no plan, I say. I am done being your bank and your planner and your cushion. Piper lifts her chin again as if to steady herself on that little ledge of certainty she is used to standing on. You are abandoning us, she says. I am leaving, I say. That is different, she does not reply. My father gestures to the hall. Let us go, he says to them, and to me he adds, do not make this worse. After the door clicks and their footsteps move down the corridor, the apartment exhales. I carry the album I made for Piper to the kitchen and set it next to the fruit bowl. I slide a letter under the cover. It is short. It says, I loved you more than I loved the idea of being loved back. It says, I hope you learn to show up. It says, I am going to be fine. I take the camera from its case and check the battery. I turn it on and take a picture of the album because I want there to be a record of everything, even the small, gentle artifacts. Then I turn the camera toward the door and take another picture, the frame filled with light from the hallway, empty and not empty. When night stretches out its long quiet, I sit at the kitchen table with my laptop and open a new message addressed to the family thread that mostly forwards holiday plans. I type a subject line and let it sit a second so I can feel the truth of it. The sweet 17 that never happened. I attach the photo of the empty restaurant from 2 nights ago. I type 3 sentences that tell exactly what happened and none of what I think about it. Then I press send and close the computer and place my palms flat on the table until my pulse catches up to my body. Chapter 4. The Justice of Truth. By morning, the apartment feels like it has shifted a few inches to the left, as if the night picked it up and set it down again. My phone trembles with alerts. A group thread that usually sleeps all summer lights up with my name. Then I see it. Mrs. Coleman from the block posted a photo of the restaurant room on Facebook. Table runners, pink and perfect chairs, empty. A caption that reads, a young woman planned a birthday for her sister, and nobody came. She did not tag me. People tag themselves in the comments anyway. The picture I took found its way into the open air like a bird that did not need my hand after all. I do not answer anyone. I make coffee and take it black and stand at the window while messages multiply. A cousin writes to me privately. She says she had no idea and asks if I am safe. Another asks why I humiliated my parents. One aunt writes that families have seasons and I should be patient. A former babysitter writes 3 hearts and a line that says, "I always knew you were the steady one." My chest tightens and softens at the same time. By afternoon, my phone has become a portable courthouse. I put it face down and walk to the mailbox for air that is not electric with opinions. 2 doors down, I see Piper on the sidewalk with her phone in her hand. Her face is tight in the way someone's face gets when they want to cry and also want to outlast the urge. A silver car idles at the curb. A girl from her team does not look up from the passenger seat. The car pulls away too fast and Piper is left with her thumb ghosting over the screen. I try a neutral voice. "Do you want to come in?" I say. She flinches like a flame touched her and her mouth angles into something practiced. "You posted that photo," she says. "I sent it to the family." I say. "I did not post it. Mrs. Coleman did. She said you gave it to her." Piper says. "I did not." I say. "She saw me at the restaurant and asked what happened." I did not answer her then. People talk, Pip. They would have talked whether I said a word. She looks past me. "They took me off the student council group chat," she says, a small, flat voice that does not ask me for comfort. Ms. Hart called me in. She said I violated community ethics. She wants me to write a reflection and help with cleanup crew next month. I am sorry, I say, and I mean the part where she is learning that actions echo and come back in shapes you did not pick. "Everyone thinks you are a saint," she says. "They do not see how controlling you are." "I kept track of bills and rides," I say. "That is not control. That is care." She swallows, and her throat works like she is trying to move a stone. "You could have kept it in the family," she says, and then turns and walks away. I let her go. She is still a child in some crucial directions. She will not be forever. The next day I meet a neighbor at the laundry room, and she pretends not to know me. She studies the bulletin board with great interest while I load quarters and detergent. I do not ask for more than she has to give. The city feels a degree cooler. At the grocery store, a clerk who always calls me honey keeps her voice level and professional. At the church pantry, where I stock shelves twice a month, the volunteer coordinator runs a hand through his hair and says, "We are handling a lot right now, and I should take a few weeks to rest." I tell him that is fine. I put a stack of sturdy napkins in the donation bin on my way out and smile at the woman who will use them for a birthday in a shelter room. Back home, I find a voicemail from a man who hired my father for a short consulting project last month. He says it is not a good time to keep the arrangement and thanks him for his time. The message was left by mistake on our old shared line and forwarded by the system. I stand very still in my kitchen and listen to it twice. The words feel heavy and inevitable. Choices are not rocks you drop into a pond where only your circle ripples out. Sometimes the circles meet and the surface reorders itself. I think of my father's face when Officer Ramirez said the words "false report," and I understand that the world is showing him a mirror he cannot talk over. My mother calls in the evening and hangs up before the tone. Then she calls again, and I answer. Her voice is low and crackling as if the connection were a vinyl record. "Lauren," she says. "Ellen called. She saw the picture. What did she say?" I ask. "She said she is worried about you," my mother says. "She asked what we were thinking. She asked me what I was thinking." "What did you tell her?" I say. "I said we were tired," she says. "I said you make everything into a lesson." I said we needed a break. I listen to the way we carries both my parents and also the shadows they inventory. "She said she has a room," my mother adds, and I can hear her fingers moving against the phone like they are counting. "She said if you want to go to Oregon, you can stay with her until you find your feet." I swallow, and the motion feels like it clears a small road somewhere inside my chest. "I know," I say. "She messaged me." My mother is quiet. I imagine her at the kitchen table with the letter from 1993, where she taped the corner back on. "I do not know how to fix this," she says. "You do not have to," I say. "You just have to stop making it worse." I hear her breathe in. Then she says we will not come by for a while, and then she hangs up the way people do when they are trying not to cry, with a little click that contains permission and defeat. That night, I put the flight on my calendar and set an alert. Tara calls, and I walk circles in the living room while we talk. Are you packed? She asks. Half, I say. I keep stopping to label things, and then I end up sorting old photos for an hour. Send me your itinerary, she says. I will text my friend at the gallery. I have a meeting with the property manager for the inspection, I say. I will be out on time. I am proud of you, she says. Sorry if I keep saying it. It is true every time. It is landing, I say. It feels less like someone else's story. 2 days later, I walk to the coffee shop near the square, and the barista who knows my order puts a pastry in the bag and says it fell off the tray and cannot be sold. I say thank you, and she squeezes my hand. The news cycles faster than my heart. By the time I walk back, my phone is full again. My father has sent a message to a family thread that reads, "This has gone far enough." An aunt replies with a line about airing laundry. A cousin posts a screenshot from Mrs. Coleman's thread where someone commented that families like ours always looked a little plastic. I laugh out loud in my kitchen, and it sounds strange to my own ears. In the afternoon, the doorbell rings, and Aunt Ellen's voice rides out of the speaker bright and composed. "Hi, honey," she says. "I am in town for a day on the way to Austin. Do you have 10 minutes? When I open the door, she looks exactly the way I remember her at Christmas's laugh lines and a streak of gray she refuses to dye. She steps in and sets a small bag on the table. "I brought you cookies from a gas station because that is what I had," she says. "I also brought you a list of neighborhoods in Portland that are not terrifying after dark." I laugh, and it breaks something brittle in me. "I saw the picture," she says, and she does not perform outrage or surprise. She sits. "Are you safe?" "I am," I say. "Good," she says. "I talked to your mother. She wants to unsee it. She cannot. No one can." "That is all right. Sometimes the truth is like that. It does not make it less true." We talk for an hour about flights and sublets and the program calendar. She writes down a coffee shop where the owner is decent and always pays on time. She writes down the name Harper and sketches an arrow to the word small gallery. Then she hugs me in the doorway and says, "Come west if you want to breathe. I have towels and a spare key. I will," I say. When she leaves, I feel the apartment tilt back into place. The evening passes slowly. Across the street, a couple argues in low voices by their car, and then gets in together like the argument was the toll they had to pay. I fold jeans into a suitcase until it zips without a fight. I put camera batteries on charge. I delete a thread of messages that hurts to read. I take one more look at the picture of the empty restaurant and I send it to my own email with the subject line, "Keep." The day of the flight arrives with clean blue sky. I clean the bathroom like I am saying goodbye to a small life and vacuum the rug for someone else's feet. The property manager signs my form and shakes my hand and wishes me luck like luck is a gift card he can hand me. I leave the keys on the counter and walk out without looking back because I do not need one last visual to make it real. At the airport, I eat half a bagel and a sliced apple, and I read 3 pages of a book I will probably start over on the plane. Tara texts me a photo of her cat and a line that says, "Take a picture out the window for me." I tell her I will. When my group is called, I line up and step onto the jet bridge that smells like metal and sanitizer. The cabin is cool and the plastic shade of the window feels familiar under my palm as I pull it to the middle. My seatbelt clicks, the engine spools up. The runway runs under us like a ribbon being pulled, and then the ground lets go. I lift the camera aim through the double glass and catch the last wash of Missouri sun breaking into the lens like a promise I do not have to write down to believe. Chapter 5. Portland Peace is the best revenge. The plane levels off above a quilt of fields and roads, and the cloud line glows a soft white that looks almost touchable. I let my shoulders sink and close my eyes until the ding of the seatbelt sign breaks the small spell. Then I open the camera and scroll to the last frame of sun over Missouri. It steadies me. I sleep in short pieces and wake as the cabin lights warm up for landing. Portland rises under us in green and gray, a patchwork of water and trees and rooftops, and the airport greets me with coffee and the quiet shuffle of travelers who know where they are going. Aunt Ellen waits by baggage claim with a hand raised just high enough to catch my eye. She smells like peppermint and paper, and the hug she gives me feels like a doorway I can stand in without being asked to fix anything. She takes one of my bags and says that traffic is gentle today, and that I will like the house because the windows face east and the morning light is kind. I sit in her old wagon while she drives along a river I have only ever seen in pictures, and she names bridges and neighborhoods like she is reading a first chapter out loud. Alberta Arts District, Mississippi Avenue. The names stack in my head like smooth stones. Her house is small and bright, and the walls hold framed prints from artists who signed their names in looping letters. She sets a key on a dish near the door and tells me this is your space now. The guest room smells like clean cotton, and the bedspread is white with small green leaves. She shows me the kettle and the coffee and where the extra towels live, then leaves me to shower the plane off my skin. Steam fogs the mirror, and in that round, wet face, I can see a person who has been remade a few degrees at a time. The next days fall into a rhythm. I take the bus to the Portland Art Academy, and the classrooms feel like honest places. I introduce myself so many times that my own name sounds new. I listen to instructors who talk about light as if it were a person with moods. I shoot on lunch breaks and after class in alleys with murals and on sidewalks where houseplants crowd windows. I pick up shifts at a photo lab near campus where the owner pays in cash at first and then trusts me enough to put me on the register. My hands learn a new choreography of paper and chemicals and the soft tap of a cutter blade. I sleep in the room with the morning light and learn the speed of rain here and how it can be a companion rather than a threat. I take the bus to look at shared places for when it is time to move out of Ellen's house. A basement studio in outer northeast with a window that sits like a smile over the street. A small room above a diner where the smell of toast drifts up at 6 every morning. I choose the room with the window and split the rent with a barista who works night shifts and stacks her sneakers in perfect lines by the door. We share a calendar on the fridge. She leaves sticky notes that say, "Take the umbrella." I leave flowers from the grocery store on days when it rains sideways. I put together a small portfolio and bring it to 3 galleries. The first 2 are polite and quick. The third is a narrow space with white walls and a tall woman behind the desk who wears her curls like a flag. She reads my name on the file and says Harper Lane, then looks at my work slowly. She asks questions that make me explain the way I place weight in an image and why I leave space where a person might enter. She says that the photos are honest in a way that can be unforgiving and also exactly what she wants. She says not now for a solo show, but that a group night is coming in late September and she would like me to bring 3 pieces. I walk back to the bus stop with my folder against my chest, and I feel like a belt has been loosened around my ribs. I choose frames that do not argue with the pictures. One is a crosswalk in rain where a pair of strangers share the smallest umbrella, and the color is the gray of a wet street that knows the difference between sorrow and relief. One is a man reading on a porch while a dog sleeps with its head on his shoe, and the light lifts the edge of the book like a tide. The last is the Burnside Bridge under a bruise-colored cloud where a bike rider glides through without knowing I am making him a witness. I print them in the lab late one night when the shop is mine, then carry them home with a care that feels like faith. On the morning of the show, I iron a shirt I bought at a thrift store and breathe in a slow count until the number 30 feels friendly. Ellen helps me pack the frames into a tote lined with towels, then walks me to the door and says that sometimes a life starts with a picture, and sometimes a picture is what proves it started. At the gallery, Harper makes a space for my work between a series of street portraits and a wall of abstract color. She writes my name on a placard carefully and asks if I want wine or water. I say water because I want my hands to be steady when I stand in front of the bridge. People arrive in small clusters that smell like rain and shampoo. They step close to the frames and lean back. They talk with their hands and sometimes leave fingerprints on the glass, and then wipe them away with the edge of a sleeve. A woman with silver hair points at the crosswalk picture and says that it looks like the moment her daughter told the truth and was not punished for it. A college kid in a knit cap tells me that the dog on the shoe looks like the way his dad loved them when he did not know how to say it out loud. I thank them for telling me what they see. I collect each sentence like a leaf pressed into a book. Near the end of the night, the room thins out. The track lights hum softly, and my feet know I have been standing for hours. I step outside to cool my face. The street is wet and the concrete smells clean. When I look back through the window, I see a figure at the donation box. She holds an envelope folded twice. Her posture is so familiar that my hand finds the doorframe before my mind has finished naming her. My mother does not look around the room. She does not ask for me. She slips the envelope into the slot, then rests her hand on the edge of the box like she is blessing it. She turns and leaves, and I watch the small half circle of her face as she passes under the gallery light. She looks older than she did in June. She also looks more like the girl in the letter from 1993. I stand very still until my breath catches up. Then I go back inside and wait until there is a quiet pocket near the box. I lift the flap and draw the envelope out carefully. Inside is a photo from a cheap point, and shoot edges scalloped my mother at 20 with paint on her knuckles and a light like a second sun under her eyes. On the back, there is one line: I am sorry. I slide the picture back into the envelope and slide the envelope into my bag. My heart makes a new sound. It is not triumphant. It is not broken. It is a small, steady hammer patching something that has held for longer than it should. After the show, Harper claps my shoulder and says I should bring her more work when I'm ready. Ellen hugs me and says that the bridge looks like a decision kept. We walk to a diner up the block and eat eggs and toast at a counter where the cook calls everyone by something close to their name. We do not talk about my mother. We talk about the rain schedule and the way the trees already know that September is here. Later in my room, I put the envelope in a drawer with my passport and the one piece of jewelry I own that came from a family store and not a mall. I sit on the floor and lean my head against the bed and let the day pass through me without needing to grab at any part of it. Morning returns me to the small rituals I trust: coffee, a bus, a street where the light waits at the corner like a friend. In class, we review contact sheets, and my instructor writes a note that says, "Find the quiet before you press the shutter." I think of the empty restaurant and the space where chairs stood like a congregation waiting for hymns that would not come. I think of the flight and the moment the wheels left the ground. I think of my mother's hand on a cardboard box. Peace does not arrive like a parade. It arrives like a room that finally fits. In the weeks that follow, I learn the roots between pockets of safety and the new names for my own habits. I am not the person who brings a whole family to a table they did not ask for. I am a person who frames truth and lets it stand. When I walk across the Burnside Bridge on a misty morning, a cyclist passes and a gull calls from the rail, and I feel the city choose me back. They never saw me because I made their lives too easy. When I stopped fixing them, I finally started fixing my life. If you have ever been the one who kept a family standing while it pulled you apart, tell me what it felt like to lay that weight down. Share your story so another woman can find her breath tonight and stay a little longer to hear the next one.